Hi, I'm Lizzie and this is Laura. Today is day 2 of our New Year cruise on board P&O's Aurora. Today is a sea day and we are looking forward to hopefully having a relaxing day.
We're on board Aurora for 5 days, so if you don't want to miss anything that we get up to on board, make sure you subscribe to our channel.
Last night we had a really uncomfortable night's sleep. The aircon doesn't appear to be working in our cabin whatsoever, so you can imagine an inside cabin gets really warm then.
Yeah, and you wouldn't actually probably expect it, seeing as though it's December, but it's just so hot and stuffy and there's no air moving at all.
We both had to sleep on top of the duvets. There was absolutely no way you could have slept underneath them. So first thing we did this morning was pop down to reception.
At reception, we had a chat with a member of staff there who was very polite and helpful, took some notes down and said that they would get maintenance to come and have a look and see what the problem was. So we left it at that and then popped through to Champions, where we just had a soft drink.
We sat in there for a little while just watching the world go by, and then we decided that because we'd missed breakfast, we would go and have a dining room lunch.
While we were having a look at the dining room menu, we bumped into Tom and Dom outside the dining room and they joined us for lunch. So the menu was quite a good menu at lunchtime, which really appealed to us, so we decided to just go for all 3 courses.
To start, I had a hot salmon tart, I think they called it. It was a little bit like a quiche, to be honest, with salmon in it. It was very tasty.
And I had the soup, which was butternut squash. For my main, I then had the chicken tikka masala, which I have had on board before and it's always tasty, so I enjoyed that.
And I had a mushroom and cheese panini. I'm a big fan of cheese and I'm a big fan of mushrooms, so it was right on my street, and actually I really enjoyed it.
And then for dessert, I had the it's like a 5-spice chocolate cake, which, to be honest, the cake itself was just a chocolate cake. It was the frosting on top that had the spicing to it. I wasn't too keen on that bit, but I did eat the cake. It's just a little bit dry.
And I had ice cream, which was essentially some vanilla ice cream and some strawberry ice cream. Once we'd finished lunch, which was quite quick really, considering we had 3 courses, we went for a walk around the promenade deck and then just a walk around the shops and some of the other parts of the ship.
At this time as well, there was a game show going on in the theatre called Pinnacle. We had missed the start of it, but we popped in and stood at the back to catch the end. They were at the point where somebody was about to win, so we thought we'd give that a watch. And it did look like it was interesting. People had clearly really enjoyed it.
We then went up to one of our favourite venues on board Aurora, which is the Crow's Nest. We absolutely love it when you can get a window seat in there and just being able to watch the sea basically and the world go by, and we just enjoyed a couple of drinks up there.
After we finished our drinks, we popped back to the cabin just to see if anything had happened with the air conditioning, if maintenance had been, to see if they could fix it. It was still in the same condition, so you could feel there was nothing coming through the vents. So we popped back to reception again just to let them know that nobody had been.
Reception said there was a note on the file to say it had been resolved, which clearly it hadn't been. So they called the ventilation team while we were there. They were told it would be back on in the cabins by 7 p.m.
At this point, the reception team told us that actually the air conditioning wasn't really broken. There were some other cabins on our deck that were having some maintenance work done, and our air conditioning was switched off so that they could do the work they needed to do for those cabins, which is a little bit annoying really, because if it was planned maintenance, we'd like to have been told that it was going to happen. We were told though that it would be back on, so we left it with that.
After we'd been to reception, we decided to go to the Glass House. Again, this is another venue that we really like on board Aurora, and we settled down to have a couple of drinks there, have a chat with some of the staff that we know from previous cruises, and just really people watched again.
We spotted the time and thought we'd better head back to the cabin now to start getting ready. And again, when we got back to the cabin, we still didn't have any air conditioning. So we popped back down to reception to see what was going on. And they said they believed it should have been resolved by this point, but it clearly wasn't.
The reception staff then phoned the ventilation team to find out what was happening. And they said that the aircon should be back on by 7 o'clock tonight. This meant that we had no aircon at all in our cabin while we were getting ready, and it was extremely hot. We needed to do things like wash our hair, so the thought of using a hairdryer was just a bit disgusting, to be honest. We had to prop our cabin door open using a chair so that we could get some of the cooler air into it from outside. I sat on the chair in the doorway for a little bit to get a bit of cool air, and a fellow passenger walked past and she just stopped to have a chat, asking if we'd got the same problem as she had with no aircon. She was then telling me all about one of her friends who unfortunately had not been allowed to board the cruise because of damage to the cabin.
From what we understand, Aurora sailed through some quite rough seas and some extremely low temperatures on the previous sailing, which meant there's been quite a bit of flooding on board from what we've heard. So some of the cabins have had to have carpets replaced, and there's been, you know, various things that have gone wrong essentially. So there's maintenance going on board at the moment, trying to repair those things, but it did unfortunately mean that some people weren't able to board this cruise.
We left the cabin at 7:30 and the aircon still wasn't on. So we popped back down to reception again. We're now quite good friends with everybody on reception. So when we were at reception, they phoned up the ventilation team again, and they said that while we were out, they would get someone to come to our cabin to check it because they believed they should all be back on by now.
So we wanted to get started with enjoying our night, so we popped into Masquerade where ballroom dancing was happening. Now, we don't take part, but we do really enjoy watching, and this event was really well attended. There were lots of people upon the dance floor. Some dances had more dancers than others, but it just amazes me how people know all the steps and remember all the steps to all the different dances. So yeah, enjoyed that part.
We then headed for dinner. We've got the late sitting, so our time is 8:30 and we are sharing a table for 8. For dinner I had lamb kofta for my starter, which I've had before on board different P&O ships and it was nice. Then I had beef for my main, and there was a lot of beef on my plate. It was again a really big portion. Food came out really hot.
Yeah, and for my starter I had a duck pate, which was nice, but it was an awfully big portion of pate with a tiny little slither of like toast to put it on, so I didn't get through all of that. And then my main was turkey, which was essentially like a Christmas dinner. It was turkey, roast potatoes, there was some sprouts, and yeah, it was an enjoyable dinner.
For dessert I had cheese board. As some of you will already know, I don't really like cake or most desserts, so it's basically either cheese plate or ice cream for me.
Such a weirdo. And I had ice cream for dessert, which was nice. We then left dinner and popped into Champions on the way through to grab a drink. The bar staff there served us quite quickly, and we took that drink with us into the theatre where the headliners were performing, and they were performing a show called Applause, which we've never seen, so we were really excited for this one.
We think this is possibly the best headliner show we've ever seen. The cast were clearly very, very talented and clearly loved performing that show. It was such high energy throughout. The amount of musicals they cover is unbelievable, and when you watch it, if you go and see it, the amount of costume changes will blow your mind.
After we'd been in the theatre, we popped up to the Crow's Nest for a drink. We met with Tom and Dom, as usual, and we also met with Ken and Lindsay from Ken Goes Cruising, so we sat and had a bit of a chat up there. We did struggle to find each other initially, but once we'd found each other, we sat and enjoyed a couple of drinks and the ambience of the Crow's Nest.
We then headed up to the late night buffet and just grabbed a bit of curry again and a few chips.
Yeah, it was pretty standard. The late night buffet on here has been quite limited, but it's been sufficient really for what we've needed.
Then we returned back to our cabin. We were quite nervous about how warm it was going to be. It was still very, very warm in our cabin. However, there appeared to be some aircon on. It didn't seem to be doing a lot, but we were happy that we had something.
We've been a little bit disappointed today with the issues we've had, I suppose, with the air conditioning in our cabin. We totally appreciate that there have been issues beyond P&O's control going on with this ship due to the weather and things like that have happened. But the thing that really, I suppose, has disappointed us is the lack of communication. It sounds to us like some of the maintenance work has been planned, so we could have been informed that these things were going to be happening and that, you know, things wouldn't be as comfortable as we'd be expecting.
However, we haven't let it ruin our day, and we've still had a lovely relaxing sea day, just what we needed after a hectic Christmas period, and managed to really thoroughly enjoy our day around the ship.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and if you've got any questions, please pop those in the comments and make sure you subscribe to our channel. You can also follow us on social media. We're Sisters on the Seas.